questions from last class. Ravindran, does Prarabdha finish in this lifetime itself? What about karma of this birth? Are Aghami, Purushartha and Jnata same or different? The third one, that Aghami, Purushartha, Jnata, I'll come to separately. I'm not clear on what he's asking. First, does Prarabdha finish in this lifetime itself? When Prarabdha ends, life ends. There cannot, by definition, there cannot be a Prarabdha that will continue into future janmas. The end of Prarabdha is the end of this Sharira. When we say this life means life in this Sharira. In this Sharira, life comes to an end when Prarabdha comes to an end. When will that Prarabdha come to an end? How will that Prarabdha end and all is different. But nevertheless, end of death means end of Prarabdha of this Sharira. You can't live 1 minute extra. You can't live 1 minute extra. It will die, it will die. It's like the fruit that is ripe cannot stick. When the time comes to fall, it will fall. There cannot be any extra. You can't attach to it and say, let me be attached for 5 more minutes or 5 more days. It just doesn't work that way. When it ends, it ends. Therefore, end of this birth is Prarabdha, which is what we call as death. So that is answering the first clarification.
We have Sanchita karma.
Yes.
Whatever is immediate function, it is this birth. So why consider whether Prarabdha only for which has come from the Sanchita for this birth, and what? So even the course of handling that Prarabdha karma will be to our maturity, will be dealing with that with kami karma or nishkam karma, whatever. So in that process, some future karma also will.
Yes.
So that point I am.
Okay. Yeah. What Ravi is asking is, you come in with Prarabdha, that which gives you the embodiment, the environment is your Prarabdha. But then you are just not your Prarabdha alone. You keep adding, deleting also. So that which brought you into is Prarabdha, and you keep adding and deleting. Now, what is that addition and deletion role in relation to Prarabdha? That's the question, correct? That is the question. Now we are dealing with a different question. That which requires immediate fructification will necessitate an embodiment. That is called Prarabdha. That's called Prarabdha. So what is Prarabdha? The time of birth is Prarabdha. The place of birth is Prarabdha. The father and mother is Prarabdha. The brother and sister is Prarabdha. Avladhan Prarabdha. That's all it is. The shape of your nose is Prarabdha. One stage full of hair and another stage half, and then later on nothing is Prarabdha. What is addition and deletion then? How does, what is that karma got to do with prarabdha karma? The question is, does it all get mixed up? Does you come in with the prarabdha, you do so many things, does everything gets mixed up? If everything gets mixed up, maybe technically not necessarily that your prarabdha has to come to an end, you will die. And you can continue prarabdha into the next embodiment. That's the, because intermixture is happening. No, correct? Intermixture is happening. Therefore, chances are no. For which we need to understand how karma functions. How karma functions. First thing, karma comes into play when we have seen that any number of times. Karma itself comes into play when where you have a choice. Always remember that. If you miss that basic point, everything will be very confusing. Karma comes into play where you have a choice. In what all you don't have a choice? I gave the list of what all you don't have a, I gave a list of what all you don't have a choice. That will naturally, so that is one set that has already fructified by giving you an environment. A conducive environment is given. What is a conducive environment? The body, the father, the mother, the place, all that put together. Distinct and different from that is, as a human being, when you start living, you start exercising choices. You start making choices, you start exercising choices. So the moment you start exercising choices, what comes into play? Karma comes into play. Does the choice, the choice that you make, does it have any effect on the already manifested prarabdha? The answer is no. It doesn't add up. It doesn't fast track the existing prarabdha, or it will not slow down the existing prarabdha. Whenever that prarabdha has to end, it will end. That's why in Vedanta, in the Vedas, we come and say, there's no such thing called untimely death. First thing, there's no such thing called untimely death. There's no such thing because all of a sudden a person is dying. All these things don't happen. Prarabdha has come to an end. Now the bigger question is not the prarabdha. The bigger question is the choices that you keep making, how does it add or delete to the karma? Now, to which karma it gets added? It gets added to the Sanchita. It doesn't, no way it can affect the prarabdha. No way it can affect the prarabdha, it cannot affect. It's a choice that you make. And the way that you have choice, you can make any choice. Can make any choice. One of the person close to me, last week, it happened. Close to me, he said, I'll be meeting that person in another 10 days, 2 weeks, I'll be meeting that person. So he said, Arundan, before you come, look into my WhatsApp picture. Look into my WhatsApp picture. Now, why will I want to look into anybody's WhatsApp picture unless you have nothing to do? I said, yeah. I said, no, why will I? Well, what is it? Look, now that he had asked me to look, I looked. It's not that I didn't look before. I looked it 3 weeks back in passing. I was texting something. He texted back in something. He saw that in passing. I actually thought maybe it's his wife. When he told me to look into it, I saw that very deeply. It is him. It is him changed to her. Did something for the here, no, did some shaving here, did some shaving here, did some shaving here. The skull. Ma Foy. What is that clinic? Some big clinic, something. He told me the name also. What is it? Ma Foy, yeah? Some, they do that. Some name they have. He told me that clinic name also. It's a 14-hour surgery, sir. I went and no, so you may not recognize me. That's why you see my. I said, thank God you told. In my head, I said, thank God you told me that. Otherwise, I would have asked, where is your brother? I didn't know that you had a sister till now. This is the choice that you are making, which doesn't change the prarabdha. You can do this. Are you able to understand the difference now? It doesn't change the prarabdha of the person. Doesn't change because of the choice that person is making. There is going to be certain consequences of that the choice. I'm thinking, why will anybody want to do that? And he will give stories as to why he wanted to do that, why it is important to do all this kind of. The whole, the skull and the facial bones and all got scraped and cut, and because it because I don't know, feminine look வரணும் அவருக்கு. From him, he wanted to become her. அவ்வளவுதான். He made a choice to become her. Has that prarabdha come to an end? That male, because he born as a male, the prarabdha, he changed, it has, no. Because of the human thing, with the sharira, you can play around a bit. But as far as the prarabdha is concerned, death happens when prarabdha ends. But what about the consequences of the choices that you make? Consequences of the choices that you make has fructifying at different stages. Some choices fructifies immediately. Some choices fructify later in the same embodiment. Some choices, the fructification will happen later. Where it gets added up to the later, we say it is added to the Sanchita. Not all choices. Some choices, the fructification is, in some choices, the fructification is immediate. In some choices, the fructification comes 6 months. 6 months later, 2 years later, 3 years later. Some choices, fructification happens later. Yeah. The Bhagavad Gita, he says, Arjuna, if you fight, you win the battle, immediate consequence. You enjoy the kingdom. You die in the battlefield, Veera Swarga, future. Then, later. Yeah. The choice that you make has consequences. The choice that you make, including inaction, has a consequence. Because you choose not to do anything also, no, at times. You choose to do something, you choose not to do something. Now, even where you choose not to do something also is a choice. That also has a fructification. Now, all that gets added. Now, when it will fructify, we really don't know. How and when it will fructify, we really don't know. Why? Because of so many interconnections. So many interconnections. When I say so many interconnections, not interconnections with others. Please understand. Not interconnection with others. In you itself, there are so many. Why? Because most of the times, we ourselves are split contradictory. I make a choice at one point of time, and then I regret why I made the choice. I should have made the choice. I regret why I didn't make the choice. So, because of all the parallel, so many conflicting, contradictory thoughts going in the head, karma pala takes everything into consideration. Therefore, it's always a bit challenging to make a one-on-one equation. One-on-one equation can be made in extreme cases. In extreme cases, one-on-one equation can be made. But that is very, very rare. You follow what I'm saying? So what happens to the Nishkama karma, Kami karma? You are born with Prarabdha. Ravindran's question. You are born in with Prarabdha. That is parallelly going on. You have Purushartha. With the Purushartha, you are doing two kinds of karma, mixture of Nishkama karma and Kamya karma. Sometimes I'm being unselfish. Sometimes I'm being selfless. Sometimes I'm being selfish. This is the combination that I am doing. What happens? What happens? Depending on the choices and other factors, fructification will be immediate later. So that's why he says three types of results: immediate result, future result, permanent result. The choices that you make can give you three: immediate result, future result, a permanent result. That's what in the Bhagavad Gita he says, neither you will get, by running away from the battlefield, neither are you getting immediate result, future result, permanent, meaning nor you are getting means you are going to get contradictory result. No result means contradictory result, because every choice, including inaction, will have, every choice, including inaction, has consequences. You follow, Ravi? That's how it works. It will not add to the prarabdha or it will delete the prarabdha. Whatsoever you do with your kamya karma, nishkama karma combination will not add to the prarabdha, nor it will delete something from the prarabdha. Prarabdha means that which has to be experienced to exhaust. Remember that. Knowledge is powerless when it comes to prarabdha. Knowledge can help in the Aghami karma and Sanchita karma, because through knowledge you can eradicate Aghami karma. Sanchita karma can be eradicated through knowledge and the spiritual practices, but the knowledge and the spiritual practices will not have an effect on Prarabdha karma. Why? Because it is so strong that you necessarily have to experience. Halfway through and all, I cannot escape. Halfway through, you cannot. Either way. You follow?
Sir, this will become a choice we make now.
Yeah.
Become part of the action.
Yes. What he is asking is, does the choice that we make becomes prarabdha for the next janma? The cumulative effect will turn into a prarabdha, will turn into an environment. Again, I repeat, the cumulative effect of all the choices that you make, the resultant effect of all the choices that you make will take you to will take you to an appropriate environment. That appropriate environment, we call it as Prarabdha. That appropriate environment meaning the gross body, and then according to the gross body, appropriate subtle body, everything around that all gets completely organized, decided by the resultant of the choices that you make. Mixed karma, mixed environment. Negative karma, negative environment. Positive karma, positive environment. Most of the time, human beings do mixed karmas. Because of the fluctuating emotions, we do mixed karmas. Because of the mixed karma, environment, the prarabdha also will be one of mixed. He said, you'll be born as a dog in the bungalow, he said. Instead of being a street dog, you will be born as a dog in the bungalow, where even though it's the dog, it will be still taken to parlor. It will be taken to parlor. It will be given massages, therapy. A therapist will come and talk to. Yeah. A therapist will come and talk to the dog also. Vis-a-vis a street dog. But nevertheless, the prarabdha karma is the dog, mixed results, depending on the choices. Therefore, the suggestion is be careful about the choices. Be careful about the choices. The idea is be careful about the choices. About prarabdha, we need not worry at all. About prarabdha, we need not worry at all. Why? Because by definition, it is the beginning of the end. Naturally, it will end. Now, you cannot add any fuel to prarabdha. Sanchita, only fuel can be added or deleted. To prarabdha, no fuel can be added, no fuel can be emptied also. As long as it's there, we don't have control. It will go on. That's why in the culture you always say prarabdha, stay quiet. It's your prarabdha, stay. Fate accomplished. It's done. Why are you even bother about it? Yes. Praptam is prarabdham. எனக்கு வாட்ச பிராப்தம் தேசே இல்ல திட்டும்போது when they get angry, it's a very typical words that was used. Nowadays nobody is using all these words because everybody is talking a mixture of English and Tamil. No, so these words and all have going out of everyday vocabulary. But எல்லாம் பிராப்தம் எல்லாம் prarabdha, they will say. Yeah. Child is very frustrating and irritating, not listening. Now you can't divorce the child, no. Yeah, you can't divorce a child. Okay, you can tell the child, get lost. But then mentally it's there already. No, there was a allam prarabdha. Now what to do? Before you make a choice, it's not prarabdha. After you make a choice, it's your prarabdha. It's your prarabdha. It's your prarabdha. The Vedas take this to the next level and they say, before getting married, your wife is not your prarabdha. The moment you get married, that person becomes your Prarabdha. Therefore, you need to. Prarabdha means what now? Huh? Now, wife or husband equals Prarabdha means what? That's all. That's it, over. அவ்வளவுதான்ப்பா. No, why are you even? It's over. Why are you even bothered about it? It is அவ்வளவுதான். Beginning of the. Why? No, I can exercise my. I have my freedom to. Yeah. Before making the choice, not after the choice. To that extent they used to take. To that extent they used to take everything. Yes, Ganesh.
No, by exercising the Purushartha,
Yes.
the event cannot change. Future gradually can change. That's what we have been talking.
Yes.
Gradually, it cannot have a U-turn.
Hmm.
By exercising Purushartha, you will not have a U-turn. Gradually, it will start changing.
Yes.
So your Purushartha is changing or the quality of life is changing. Quality of Purushartha is changing.
Yeah. The question that Ganesh is asking is, Purushartha gradually navigates, changes. Is it changing your Prarabdha? Is it changing your Prarabdha? Because the quality of like for example, you are born poor, you are born illiterate. You are born poor, you are born illiterate. You got educated, you become literate. Has your Prarabdha changed? You are poor, you did the assume that you have been very dharmic in the acquisition of wealth, etc. You have become, from poor, you have become rich. Has your Prarabdha changed? We say, no, Prarabdha didn't change here. What has changed? Your Prarabdha didn't change because the Sharira is still the same. The Sharira is still the same. The people around are still the people around are all still the same. All that doesn't change. All that remains the same. Then what has changed because of Purushartha? What has changed because of Purushartha? Your sense of contentment can change, your sense of discontentment can change. Your intensity of discontentment can increase, the intensity of your contentment can increase. In that sense, your Prarabdha is not changing. As a jiva, as an individual, you are growing. That's a totally separate. Because in the human embodiment, because we have the capacity to make choice, Purushartha is there. What happens? It's not that I do my Purushartha today, I have to suffer now and my life is going to become better tomorrow. No. In some, changes happen. In some, changes will not happen. Where the changes do not happen, but you necessarily have to experience and exhaust, is called Prarabdha. You follow? So your Purushartha in no way changes your Prarabdha. Because Prarabdha is not your quality of life. Your quality of life is determined by various other factors. Don't equate Prarabdha to the quality of life. Supposing if I say equate Prarabdha to the quality of life, how much ever I am dharmic, becoming intelligent, etc., 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 I have to really be in poverty, and then 2 janmas later only I'll become suddenly rich. We really don't know. It may happen. Carefully follow. It may happen. It may not happen. The answer is we don't know. Why we don't know? Where you don't have access to full data, the smart thing is to say, where you don't have access to full data, where you can never have access to full data, never to come to a powerful conclusion using the limited data. Better to say what? Better to say, based on these factors, this is what I'm doing. These are the choices that I'm going to make. In what direction it's going to take or what it is, I really don't. You follow? So Prarabdha means this. Prarabdha means the capacity to, the Prarabdha means that which exhausts by itself. It will exhaust by itself. You don't have to make an effort to do it.
So can we say then the result of Purushartha could be, we may not know the result of all.
Yeah. Purushartha,
But we will not know.
yes. Purushartha, what Ganesh is saying is, does it mean we can never know what the actual result is going to be? Yes. Definitely there is going to be a result. What would be the result is always unknown. That's why we call it as Deva Rahasya. It's secret. It is God's secret. We can never know. Remember, whenever we talk about action in the law of karma and in Karma Yoga, we always spoke about it in detail any number of times. All actions will produce 4 types of results. Of the 4, one will come. Of the 4, one will come. But what will come? We really don't know. But definitely one will come. Of the 4, what? We really don't. You follow?
What decides on the next Janma? Is it that Sanchita or decide?
Yeah. What Sri Ram is asking is, what decides the next Janma? What decides the next Janma is the resultant force. The resultant force which will drive the jiva into a specific environment. Once you are in an environment, we will call it as prarabdha. But what will take you from one embodiment to another embodiment is the vasana. When we say vasana, means the resultant vasana, not a direct, not a single vasana. It is the resultant vasana. Resultant means the cumulative effect of all the choices that you have made necessitates a specific embodiment, and you will be and every one of us will take that embodiment. Before taking that embodiment, you should call it as resultant. After getting an embodiment, you should call it as prarabdha. Are you able to follow? Before an embodiment, you should be called as resultant only. You should not call it prarabdha. Once having gotten into an embodiment, you should call it as prarabdha. What decides karma? Is it the action, or is it the attitude behind the action, intent? What decides karma? Is it action, or is it the intent behind the attitude? What we call as attitude nowadays, the intent behind the action. With what intention it is? With what intention it is performed? It is decided by the intent of how much of selfish or unselfish is happening in that action. Again, I repeat, how much of selfish or unselfish? One. Second, who decides that selfish or unselfish? You don't decide it by yourself. You don't say, according to me, it is unselfish. And then it bounces back and hurts you so badly. The person comes back and say, it's not worth being good at all, sir, nowadays. Because it has come back and hurt you badly. Therefore, who decides that? That's where we have the scriptures calling it as dharma. So, actions guided by dharma makes it selfish or otherwise. Everybody in their hearts think they are unselfish. No. See, okay, take it to the extreme. Even a terrorist thinks he is making a, even the terrorist is thinking that he is making a big sacrifice. No. So intent means, does the doer decide the intent or something different from the doer decides the intent? That's where we say when the doer should not decide the intent, because if it is left to the doer to decide the intent, all doers think they are unselfish. When they do something, they think they are very unselfish. When they get out also, they think they are very unselfish. So when does a human being appears to be selfish according to one's own self? No. You follow? It's very interesting. The karma is decided by intent. Karma is decided by intent. And intent is decided by whom? That's where we say dharma. Because dharma doesn't take into consideration you alone. On what basis we say dharma decides intent? First thing, dharma doesn't give any exaggerated value to a single doer. First thing, it is number two, it is impartial. First thing, it doesn't give any exaggerated value to any doer. He may be the greatest or the worst. See, greatest and worst is again purely relative terms only. Isn't it? Therefore, first thing is dharma. Now, how does dharma, why do we say dharma has the capacity to decide the intent? Dharma means the law. First thing, the law doesn't give any exaggerated value to a single doer, howsoever the doer thinks they are great. Two, impartial. The law functions impartially. It doesn't have any preferences. It doesn't have any preferences. It doesn't have any exceptions. Another important factor is for intent is the dharma. Another important factor in dharma is this. Interplay is very clearly maintained. Meaning, you as an individual will never understand how your emotions are playing. You will never understand that. Because that's why we are talking about the intellect, no? Why? Because emotions always have a different, emotions always functions very, very differently in every person. Your emotions are defined by what? Your emotions are defined by what? Your emotions are always defined by mindness. Remember that. That's where Dharma comes and says, any emotion springing out of mindness will not be considered as the unselfish category and all. It's very clear. Again, I repeat. Again, I repeat. Emotions play differently in terms of what? Emotions play differently in terms of mine versus not mine. We have two sets of rules, no? Isn't it? We always have two sets of rules. One rule for mine, another rule for outside of mine. What we call as others. Yes. So, how does this emotion function now? That minus always is hidden in every emotion, in every choice. Dharma comes and says you must exercise your buddhi, be aware of your mindness or your selfishness interfering with every choices that you are making, and be aware of it and eliminate it. Are you able to follow how karma, how it works? Because mindness, the vega itself comes, the obsession, the vega, the intensity of doing, the energy to run a marathon, all that comes from where? Mindness. Remove that mindness from a human being, the human being becomes sakshi. Doing, doing what that person ought to do and keep going. You follow? Intent, everybody says it is intent. Intent decided by whom? No, sir. Sir, my conscience is very clear, sir. Narayana, very good. Tomorrow we'll tell you whether your conscience is according to dharma, or your mindness, you covered it up. Your mindness and your selfishness, you gave it a tag called conscience. Because so many people tell me, so many people say this. Yes, ultimately, sir, it is our own conscience. No. Yeah, correct. It's your own conscience. But to listen to the conscience, the noise of the mind must reduce. It is conscience whispers. Conscience, and it will not shout on. No, we are shouting on top of the voice now, no? The classroom and all, we shout on top of the lungs. I don't know. Throat is burning, lungs are burning. Conscience doesn't do all that. Conscience whispers. Conscience just whispers. Hey, no, it whispers. Kus kus kusun pes. Now, in the noise the mind is making all the time, it simply gets drowned. Therefore, whatever people say as conscience is nothing but their own mind. That's why we say, for a highly evolved soul where mindness and all is eradicated a lot, that person's conscience and scripture becomes one and the same. There, that person can say, I'm listening to my conscience. Rest of us must take guidance from where? Rest of us must take guidance from the dharma, the scriptures. Tasmat shastram pramanam te karya vyavastitau. Bhagavad Gita. Tasmat shastram pramanam te. Arjuna, Shastram is the pramanam. Ultimate authority, where you cannot go. See, pramanam means the ultimate authority by which there is no other way you can go and verify it. That's why it's called pramanam. That's why in the logical, we'll be studying that in detail. When you go into the one of the in topics of this lesson, intellect versus intelligence, we'll be studying that. There is the primary pramanam and the secondary pramanam. When we say shastram, tasmat shastram pramanam te, we want to, the question that we will ask there is do we give Shastra the status of the primary pramanam or the secondary pramanam? Most of the time we give it a secondary pramanam. Krishna comes and says, the Vedas comes and says, it should not be given the status of the secondary pramanam. Shastra should be given the status of the primary pramanam. What does primary pramanam means? The one and only source. For sight, that's why we say Pratyaksha Pramanam is an example of primary Pramanam. Again, Pratyaksha Pramanam is an example of primary Pramanam. Meaning, Pratyaksha Pramanam means what your eyes? Color and form is revealed. What reveals color and form? Eyes. Is it primary or secondary? It's primary. It can't be secondary. Why? Because charcoal is black in color. I want to verify it. Where will you go and verify? Charcoal is black in color. Your eyes revealed charcoal is black in color. Where will you go to verify that? You can't go to the tongue. You can't go to the ears. You can't go to the nose to check whether is charcoal black in color. And then your ears say, I agree that charcoal is black in color. What would you say for that? You are trying to operate in an area where you have no jurisdiction at all. Primary pramanam is the clarity, where this can function only in this jurisdiction and it has no capacity to function outside of it. Then we give Shastram the status. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam te karya. Now today what had happened is your opinions you give the status of primary Pramanam. That's ego. Your opinions. How do you say that? This is what I feel. This is what I thought about it. Yeah. Swamiji always gives this example. I fully thought about it, sir. I thought about it very well. You always say, with your chicken intellect, what did you, with the chicken intellect, what thought did you give to? Well, it's a well-informed relation. No, we have due diligence. The law words they use. Primary pramanam, Shastra is given the status of the primary pramanam. Therefore, the intent is decided by what now? I'm still answering that question because it's very important to understand the consequences. The karma pala is decided by the intent. Intent decided by intent, not decided by you. Not decided by you. Because if you are allowed to decide your intent, based on what basis you will decide? Your mindness. Your mindness, your selfishness. Yeah. Your mindness, based on your mindness, based on your selfishness only, you will go on deciding my intent is right, but life is unfair, sir. With all good intentions, I did this. It backfired. Shastra will come and say, if it has backfired, Impartial. That's where Shastra is you get very irritated at the Shastra. And you'll get very irritated at the Shastra. You'll feel like shooting the Guru at this point in time only. Because with an impartial thing, it will tell you what you thought your intent is great and all, but it is not. It was not so. Your ego will not. Your ego will not accept it. Your ego will say no. Because with whatever existing intellect only, I have to make the choice. No. With the existing intellect, you have to consult the Shastra and make a choice. Pesaji, are you able to follow? You don't make a choice based on your existing intellect. Using the existing intellect, consult. And then make a choice, you are all right. But sir, if they are not available, what to do? They are not available, what to do? Huh? It is impossible where you have a Dharma Sankat and you want to listen to the Shastra and you will not have access to the, it's an impossibility. You have a genuine intent of you don't want to make a choice, you really want to follow Dharma and you want guidance, it will, that's where they say, the guidance will come and knock at your door, he says. The Guru will come and knock at your door. God will come and knock at your door. Why? Because all that you need to do is what? Develop this conviction. What is the conviction? Karma pala is decided by the intent, and my intent should be aligned with the dharma. As long as my intent is aligned with the dharma, I am taken care of. As in karma pala. It's very important. Otherwise, if you look at life, everybody thinks their intentions are noble. Everybody thinks their intentions are noble. Everybody assumes their intentions are right. And then it bounces back as agony, anxiety, misery, pain, suffering. Obviously, who will be the cause for all that now? Everything other than you. Because everything other than you becomes obvious cause. Why? Because in your head, you are very clear. I came in with good intentions. I came in with good intentions, sir, but the other only is my prarabdha, sir. Correct. Are you able to follow? Intent is always decided by the karma pala is decided by intent. And that intent is decided by dharma. That's why the first important lesson that we have to learn is the dharma. So that it tells you. And dharma always is an impartial factor. It doesn't have any preferences. Symbolically, Yama and his accountant. Yeah. Symbolically, we talk about Yama and his accountant. Yamaya Dharmarajaya Mrityavecha Antakaya. Yeah. You can never blind him. That's what it says. Antakaya. You can never blind Yama. You can blind? You can blind yourself. You can see, you can throw dust onto your eyes. That is possible. That is possible. Yamaya Dharmarajaya Mrityavecha Antakaya. Vaivasvataya Kalaya Sarvabhuta Chayaya Cha Audumbaraya Dadnaya Nilaya Parameshtine Vrigodaraya Chitraya Chitraguptaya Vai Namaha Chitraguptaya Vai Namo. Yeah. You should know the accountant also. And you should be in the good books of the accountant also. Clear? Yama is the boss and Chitragupta is the accountant. Chitragupta is the accountant. I know that Chitragupta Ivai Namaha, the morning, afternoon, evening, we pray to him in our Sandhya and say Chitragupta Vai Namaha, and we pray to the accountant also. Why? Because please, as it is, I'm struggling so much. Ensure that accounts are, ensure that your entries are all correct. Chitragupta says, don't worry. Not even a single error will be, not even a single error will be made. That is incomprehensible. That is incomprehensible. Chitraguptaya Vai Namaha. Yeah. Symbolic it is. So intent is there. So karma pala is decided by the intent, not the action. Not the action. That the attitude with which the intent with which the action is done. It's very important to understand this. Do you have any other clarifications, Anshu? Show it. 1 second. Yes, Srira. Will the result? Yeah. The clarification Sriram is asking is, the selfish, unselfish has an effect on the karma pala. Result of action. Yes. The result of action is decided by your unselfishness or selflessness or selfishness. The karma pala purely goes by the selfish, unselfish or selfless. See, action has two components. One is the skill part of it, the intelligence part of an action. That decides one kind of result. Now we are not talking about the result that is going to be produced by the skill, intelligence. There's another type of result, which is the mental state. So whenever we talk about karma pala, what do we talk about as karma pala here? The mental state we are talking about. For example, there is a surgeon, let us say, an efficient surgeon. As long as he is a very skillful surgeon, material results will come. His mental health will be dependent on what? Not the surgery, the intent with which surgeries are, the intent with which it is done. Are you able to understand the difference now? Intelligence produces material results. Dharma is responsible for mental state. And if you have a very good mental state, by default, material wealth is relatively easy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Kshipram re manushe loke. Kshipram hi manushe loke. Success in the material world, Arjuna. Idhu poi ivla kastama, he says. Why are you battling so much for material success? For success in this world is easy. Enna pannu? Yajna. Do yajna. That's all. You keep doing yajna. That's it. Result keeps. No. Even if gods decide to stop it, they cannot be stopped. You follow? See now. Therefore, intelligence will take care of the material results. The intent will take care of the mental health. Of the two, we are not saying which is more important, which is less important. Of the one, what can influence the other? The material result may not influence your mental health, but your mental health directly influences your material well-being. In that sense, the mental health is directly connected to your. Is it okay? Yeah. Yes, Anshu, what are the clarifications? Jairam. There are few examples in real life where people get harmed for exposing corrupt people actions. How does dharma protect the noble? Good clarification. Jairam. At a superficial level, it looks like they are getting into trouble because they're exposing the corrupt. That is at a superficial layer. But upon some deeper penetration, we understand that we get into trouble not because of exposing the corrupt, because of various other factors we get into trouble. But on a superficial plane, it always looks like it always looks like you expose the corrupt, you will get into trouble. Correct. There are millions of examples that we can quote on an everyday basis where dharma will always look ineffective. And contrastingly, you can never find a simple example from real life to support dharma. So funny it is. You can find a million examples to say how dharma is ineffective, but you can never find a example to say how dharma is effective. Why? Because it is sukshma. It operates at a sukshma level, subtler layers. That's where in Ramayana, any saint that Rama meets, first question he asks is, the only question that he asks, any saint that he meets in Ramayana, he says, teach me dharma. Teach me dharma. The Rishi will turn back and say, you yourself is dharma, Rama. Yeah, you are dharma. What are you asking us? He says, no. The sukshma, still the nuances, the sukshma is very, still I'm grappling with the nuance because it's not as easy as it looks. That's why it's called dharma sukshma. The subtleties. Who can understand the subtlety and explain it rightly? One who doesn't have any value to what is happening around alone can explain the subtlety better. Who can understand the children's fighting better? Only when you have outgrown childhood, no? Supposing if biologically you have produced a child, but you have not outgrown childhood, what will happen? Biologically, we have produced children, but then we have not outgrown childhood. Then what will happen? The children's fight will become adults' fight. You follow, Jairam? Therefore, it is dharma. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Formula. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. You protect dharma, that dharma protects. You protect dharma in the sense, how do you protect dharma? By obeying the dharma. How do you protect dharma? By obeying the dharma. You obey the dharma protects you back. On a superficial one-on-one basis, we cannot understand it. Because on a one-on-one basis, it always looks like, the corrupt will be flourishing and they seems to have all the protection and dharma seems to have no protection. Why? Because the mind has a natural affinity to negativity. Mind has a natural affinity to negativity. Does the mind is the mind attracted to gossips or is the mind attracted to facts? You can call the gossip as a fact. That's your thing. But what is the mind naturally attracted to? You follow? Therefore, at the superficial level, it always appears to be so. Two, It's not that if you are following dharma, you have to suffer now and then in future only you'll be happy. Again, it's not like dharma is not like that cinematic stuff. Yeah. Dharma is not like the cinematic stuff. What is the cinematic stuff? The villain will be happy from the first scene till the last scene. The hero will be suffering from the first scene till the last scene. In 2 minutes, there will be a fight. And who will die? The villain will die. Shubham. You will never see the hero happy. Dharma doesn't operate like that. Dharma doesn't operate like that. Shubha means the end. So, in your memory, what will you come back with? The hero is good man is suffering, bad man is enjoying. And finally, the bad man will die. So at least I used to think better to be that bad man and enjoy 30, 40 years and get beaten up in 10 minutes and die. No. Less. So all that is what that how long the fellow will get beaten up 5, 10 minutes? No, die. Better to be. Ah, you will think like that if you take you to be the Sharira. If you understand the Jiva, you know life is not like that. That's where Dharma, the Sukshma comes. That's where the Dharma Sukshma comes in. Beautiful question. Rama asks. Any Rishi he meets, he says, please teach me Dharma. We are the opposite. We are ready to teach Dharma. Nobody is asking us. we are on the opposite side of the thing. Sir, I'm fully ready, sir, but nobody is. I'm fully ready with Dharma. Nobody is listening. Rama is exactly the opposite. Whoever he meets, he asks, teach me Dharma, teach me Dharma. And the Rishi immediately says, you are Dharma Rama. You yourself is embodiment of Dharma. You are Dharma. What Dharma can we teach you? He says, no. Sukshma. You follow? Yeah. One more clarification. We'll take it up and we'll conclude. Yes. The next one. If embodiment and environment, people is Prarabdha, then how do I know which action is born of Prarabdha and which action is one of Purushartha? Since every moment the individual is Karta and Bhokta combination, going through Prarabdha and Purushartha. From the question, you know who's asking the question. Everybody knows here. Yeah. If embodiment and environment, people is Prarabdha, then how do I know which action is born of Prarabdha and which action is one of Purushartha? Since every moment the individual is Karta and Bhokta combination going through Prarabdha and Purushartha. Answer. All actions are born out of Purushartha. It is the effect that is called as Prarabdha. Remember that actions are born out of Purushartha. The effect is called as Prarabdha. While doing, it's not Prarabdha. While doing, it is Purushartha. So Prarabdha means the effect, the consequences. Are you able to follow? That's why I always say human being is a combination of two things, Karta and Bhokta. Bhokta means one who is experiencing the consequences of doing. Now, who is the Bhokta? Who is the father of the Bhokta? The Karta. Actually, father lang the Kartave, Bhoktava modify I, enjoys or suffer and keeps going. So it is the Karta that metamorphoses as it were into, no, sorry, as it were lang it is Karta that becomes the Bhokta. So, and whenever we talk about knowledge, we don't talk about knowledge from the Bhokta standpoint at all, because from the Bhokta standpoint, there's nothing to talk. As a Bhokta, supposing the question is, as a Bhokta, what do I do? As a Bhokta, you can't do anything because Bhokta doesn't have Purushartha. Bhokta has to necessarily experience the consequences. Who has Purushartha? The Karta alone has Purushartha. So at any given point in time, we are all like the Ardhanari. Ardhanari, you understand, no? Combination. Yeah. At any given point in time, we are this combination of Karta and Bhokta. We come and say, don't worry about the Bhokta. Because it is Bhokta that always asks why. Karta will ask, what do I do to change? Bhokta will ask, why is it happening, sir? Why is it happening? What is the answer? Depending on the situation, sometimes we can say it's your own making. Sometimes when there is extreme pain or difficulty or that, we will not feel saying it's your own making. We say, we really don't know, but I am there for you. Let's tide over this too together, all that. But nevertheless, Bhokta doesn't perform action. All this must be very clear. Bhokta doesn't have the capacity to perform action. Bhokta must necessarily only experience. Karta alone can do the action. You follow the difference now? Karta alone can do the action. Bhokta cannot do the, because if Bhokta also can do the action, then where is the distinction of Karta and Bhokta? Then where is that Prarabdha and all coming in? It makes no. No. Bhokta cannot act. Bhokta has to necessarily experience. Whatever be that experience, it can be good or it can be bad. That's why we say as a Bhokta, you will be in Swarga or you will be in Naraka. Both experience alone will be happening there. It is the Karta that performs. It is Karta that performs action. You follow? See it like that. With this, we conclude for today and we continue next week.